15 days away to what I believe is the most important election in my lifetime. I don't just believe it's the most important election that I have already voted in. I believe it's the most important election that I ever will vote in. I've been doing a lot of reading. I've read a lot over the last several weeks. I've listened to and I've talked to a lot of Christians, not just in Louisiana, not just in Mississippi, but all over the United States of America. And one thing that I am finding that is very troubling is the fact that there are a lot of Christians, there are a lot of evangelicals who are planning to not even vote November 5th. I've had a lot of them tell me, well, our vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter. They're going to steal the election anyway, or this is going to happen. And I've heard lots of different excuses on why a lot of people are planning not to vote. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to admit to you, it is very troubling. If the amount of Christians stayed home in 2020, we're going to lose this election. We cannot afford to have you stay at home. I've been researching and looking at some polls, and I read this one particular poll, and it's very troubling that in this particular poll, it said that there are going to be over 41 million evangelicals stay at home and not even vote November 5th. Now, I'm hearing lots of different arguments. Some people say, well, the reason why we're not going to vote is because, Donald Trump isn't a Christian, or Donald Trump isn't this, or Donald Trump isn't that. Ladies and gentlemen, we must remember several things. Number one, we are not voting for a pastor. Donald Trump might not be eligible to be the pastor of my church, but he's absolutely eligible to be the president of the United States of America. I'm not voting for a pastor. I'm voting for a president. And when I look at Kamala Harris and I look at that Democrat Party and I look at their ideology and I look at their platform and I look at the things they're pushing, I mean, her running mate, Tim Walz, put tampons in the bathrooms of boys' bathrooms in Minnesota. That's the kind of man that is trying to be the vice president of the United States of America. That is very troubling to me. You have a man who his campaign, his state, was going to allow babies to be murdered even after they're born. I mean, it is very, very troubling to me to see, what is happening and some of the things that's going on when you look at the Kamala Harris and Tim Walz ticket and just how vile, how wicked, and how just outright dangerous that platform and those two truly are. That is one of many reasons why I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I get all of my friends to the polls. Now, I realize that we're only 14, 15 days away, from election, and so I know that I cannot get I can't get people to register to vote anymore. It's too late for that. But I can get my friends and family to the polls. I'm assuming, I know in Mississippi, I know even in Louisiana, I talked to some people today in my church in Louisiana, they're going to vote in the morning. And so I know that people are already starting to vote. I've already spoken to several people that have already voted. They say, I've already cast my vote for Trump. I was at lunch yesterday after church, and I was talking to a lady and her son, and both of them had already voted, and they both had voted for Trump. And so that's good to hear and good to see. And the Republican Party, I believe, is doing a much better job this go as far as getting, people to the polls. And kudos to them. I know the Trump campaign is doing a much better job, this go than we did in 2020 as far as getting people to the polls early. Go vote now. You never know what's going to happen on November 5th. Get people to the polls. Go vote now. I believe that it is our obligation as a citizen of this great nation to go and vote. I believe it's an obligation as a Christian, to go and vote. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why you and I as a Christian, why we should vote. Now, let me just say this in way of introduction. The Democrat Party is not your friend. The Democrat Party is not the friend of the Christian. The Democrat Party is not the friend of the church. Just a few days ago, at one of Kamala Harris's campaign events, at one of her rallies, two young people hollered out, "Jesus is Lord." Kamala Harris, you can go Google it, find it, look it, watch it yourself. Kamala Harris let them know, she informed them very quickly that they was at the wrong rally, that they need to go down to the rally down the street because this rally, was not that type of rally. That is what Kamala Harris said. That's not hearsay. That is not what I said. That is what she said to these two young people whenever they hollered out, "Jesus is Lord." You need to go to the rally down to the end of the street. That is a shame, ladies and gentlemen, that's the kind of person that we have that is the head of the Democrat ticket. And I just want to ask my Democrat friends this question. I know I've read some of their comments on social media, taking their shots at me, about as far as, they're a Christian and they're voting for Kamala Harris. Let me just ask you a question. How can you and your Christian values that you say that you have vote for a person that is going to kick people out of a rally for hollering out Jesus is Lord? How can you claim to be a Christian and vote for Kamala Harris whenever she is for abortion, murdering these innocent boys and girls up until not just the day of birth, but even her running mate is okay with it even after? And of course, he tried to backtrack on the debate stage because that's the kind of weasel that the man truly is. And he said it. He said he was a knucklehead, and I agree with him. That's the only thing he said all night that I agree with, that he is a knucklehead. But let me just make something very clear, ladies and gentlemen, that your vote counts. Your vote counts. We have to have every single person, every evangelical, every Christian, everybody has to get to the polls. If you can vote now in your state legally, go vote. But if you can't, then if you have to wait till November 5th, you wait till November 5th and you go and you vote. I want to give you 10 reasons why, as Christians, we should vote. Now, I'm not sure if I'll get to all 10 today, but over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll be sure to get out this message as far as why, or 10 reasons why we as Christians should vote. Number one, I believe it is our moral responsibility to do so. I believe that it is our moral responsibility to go to the polls and to go vote. Whenever you have one person on one side that is pro-life and you have one person on the other side that is pro-choice, it is my moral obligation as a Christian to go and vote. The Bible says, therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. So I will even take it a step further, that you as a Christian, it is our moral obligation to go and vote. And whenever you know that you have somebody that is pro-life and then you have somebody that is pro-choice and you don't go vote, some of you might disagree with this, but I believe that's a sin against God whenever we don't go and vote, when it's our moral responsibility and our moral duty. When you have somebody on one side that is for religious freedom, somebody on the other side that is not, it is our moral responsibility. Whenever you have somebody that is for marriage traditionally, and you have somebody on the other side that is not, it is our moral responsibility to go and vote. Whenever you have somebody on one side that is against and opposed to these drag queens going into our libraries and reading books to our children dressed in this drag queen, it is our moral responsibility to go and vote. And you have somebody on the other side, Kamala Harris, she's for it. She's for drag queens going in and reading books to our children, our 4 or 5-year-old little boys and girls. But Donald Trump is opposed to that. And so when I know all of these things that Donald Trump is for and that Kamala Harris is for, or that Donald Trump is against and Kamala Harris is against, I, as a Christian, I should go and vote. It is my moral responsibility. James Madison said this. Listen to this. He said, "It is the duty of every man to render to the Creator such homage, but this duty is precedent both in order of time and degree of obligation to the claims of civil society." John Jay said this. He said, "Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers, and it is a duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers." That is what John Jay said, and I agree 100% wholeheartedly, that you and I as a Christian, now I already know what people are going to say. Donald Trump, he's not perfect. Of course he's not perfect. Of course Donald Trump's not perfect. You're not perfect either. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. If we was waiting on a perfect candidate to vote, it wouldn't happen. We would never get to go vote. Listen, there was only one perfect person, and he's not on the ballot. That is Jesus Christ. He's not on the ballot, but there is a man on the ballot, Donald Trump, who I, as a Christian, I line up with him a whole lot more than I line up with Kamala Harris. And so let's just be clear about that. John Adams said this. He said, "The general principles on which the fathers achieved independence were the general principles of Christianity. And if you and I don't get out and vote, we're going to watch as those principles and as that platform, that Christian platform, is going to be under attack like never before if Kamala Harris is elected as president of these United States of America." That is why you and I, as a Christian, I believe that we have a moral obligation to get to the polls and get everybody that we possibly can to the polls. I made a social media post the other day, and I said this, that a vote for the Democrat Party, no, this is hard. This is hardcore, and I get it. I know this is going to rub somebody the wrong way, but just listen to me. A vote for the Democrat Party is a vote for Satan, in my opinion. There is no doubt that Satan is leading the Democrat Party. 100%. No doubt about it. Whenever you look at what is the thriving push behind the Democrat Party, pro-choice, abortion, murdering innocent babies. How is that Christian? That is something that Satan will do. If you go all the way back to the beginning of time, Satan has always been about sacrificing of children. You look at whenever they worship the alligator, the Egyptians, what do? They would sacrifice their children. When they worshiped the sun, they would sacrifice their children. I mean, they were constantly sacrificing their children. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a work of Satan himself. Whenever it comes to sacrificing our children, that is a work of the devil. And so whenever I see what is happening, and I see what is going on with the Democrat Party, and they are pushing for murdering these babies. Listen, I have a moral obligation to vote against that and to stand against that. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is not for that, but Satan is. When I see these transgenders, these drag queens going in and trying to brainwash our children, whenever I see what they're trying to do to these boys and girls and cutting off body parts and things of that nature, this mutilization, I mean, all of that is just serious trash from the very pit of hell itself. Listen to me very carefully. That is not the work of Christ. That is the work of Satan. So I, as a Christian, I have a moral responsibility to push back against that trash. I have a moral responsibility to push back against this pro-choice agenda, this transgender agenda, this woke agenda, this drag queen agenda. And you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to push back. I'm going to fight against it. I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to defeat that every single day of my life. I have a moral obligation. I'm going to read it once again, what James Madison said. He said, "It is the duty of every man to render to the Creator such homage." And then John Jay said this. I love what John Jay said. He said, "Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers. And it is the duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers." I love that. I love that. Let me give you the next thing. Next is the preservation of religious liberty. The preservation of religious liberty. If you don't think our religious liberties can come under attack in America, well, then you better think twice. You say, "Dan, there's no way that they could come under attack in America." I mean, we live in the United States of America. We have a Constitution. We have a Bill of Rights. We have all of these things. There's no way that they can push back against religious liberty. I like what John Adams said. He said, "We have no government armed. We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions, unbridled by morality and religion." Noah Webster said, "The religion which has introduced civil liberty is the religion of Christ and his apostles. This is genuine Christianity, and to this we owe our free constitutions of government." Our founding fathers, people want to say that this nation wasn't built upon Christian values. I mean, there are so many books and there are so many quotes, and there are so many things from our founding fathers that solidified the fact that our nation was built upon biblical principles, 100%. And if we're going to preserve that religious liberty, we're going to have to stand, we're going to have to push back, we're going to have to fight against this agenda that is being pushed out by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the Democrat Party. Galatians 5:1, the Bible says, "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." It's all about control. When you look at governments around the world and governments that became all-powerful, it was about control. It was about controlling the people. Whenever our nation was founded, it was not about the government controlling the people, but it was about the people controlling the government. It wasn't about the government ruling and reigning over the people, but it was the fact that the people were supposed to rule and reign over the government. It was the government were supposed to serve the citizens, not the citizens serving the government. That was one of the most unique things about our country and our nation, was how it was founded and how it was built. It was built from the top leaders were serving the people, not the people serving the leaders. Whenever you look at Rome, and you look at Egypt, and you look at all these other countries around the world, even today, in many parts and many places like North Korea, Iran, Iraq, all of these countries, it is reversed. It is the people serving the government. Rome, it was the people serving the government. North Korea, it's the people serving the government. I mean, you look at China, it's the people serving the government. But here in the United States of America, even in England, it was the people serving the king, serving the queen. But here in America, this nation was not founded that way. This nation was founded, the people had the sword, not the government. And that's why George Washington, he didn't want to be king. He was going to be the president. He was going to preside over the Senate. He was going to preside over both houses, both chambers. That was his responsibility. He was the president of the United States of America. There was 3 chambers, and there was 3 different compartments of our government. And it was all about serving the people, so that way the people's voices could be heard, not the government's voices to be heard. Now, let me just say this. There are some people in America and even in our government who they are trying to do all that they can to reverse that role and bring it back to the people serving the government instead of the government serving the people. And those are the type of people that we need to get out of office. Those are the type of people that we need to get rid of whenever it is the people that is being controlled by the government. That is when you're going to have chaos. That is when you're going to have, a bad form of government is the government that is ruling and reigning over the people instead of the people ruling and reigning over the government. That's how it is here in America. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose that if we keep sending people to D.C. and if we send people to the White House, that they believe that it's the government's responsibility to rule and reign over the people. And let me just say this. It's not the government's responsibility to bail you out. No. It's not their responsibility. Whenever they're giving you money or they're bailing you out, this is one reason why my church that I pastor, during COVID, we didn't take any money from the government. We didn't need their bailouts. I know lots of churches, I know lots of schools that took thousands and thousands of dollars from the government. We did not. I chose not to go down that path. We could have went down that path, but I chose not to go down that path for many reasons. I don't need the government to bail me out, right? I have an almighty God. I have God in heaven, and if we need a bailout, it is going to come from God. It's not coming from the government. And unfortunately, a lot of churches, they took that money from the government. A lot of schools took that money from the government. A lot of people took that money from the government. There's always strings attached to taking money from the government. Always strings attached. And so we decided we're going to put our faith in God. It's not in government we trust. It's in God we trust. And so if we're not careful, we will lose the liberties that we have in this nation if we send the wrong people to D.C., if we send the wrong people to the White House. This is one of 10 reasons why we must vote. We need every Christian, every evangelical to get to the polls and to vote November 5th. I've already given you 2 reasons. One reason is because of moral responsibility. The second reason is because of the preservation of religious liberty. John Adams said this. He said, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. That's what John Adams said. Well, that's good whenever you think about our founding fathers and the wisdom that they had. Let me just stop right here and let me just say this, because I want to make sure that you guys understand that your vote counts. Your vote counts. So many times we think that our vote isn't going to count. No, your vote 100% counts. We don't need to forget that. We need to make sure that we get everybody we can to the polls. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, I would encourage you to do so. Please subscribe to God and Country. Whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Facebook, no matter where you're watching, please subscribe. It helps get out our message. Let me just give you the next thing, and then we'll come back on some other videos and finish the others, because there's several that are just really good on why Christians need to vote. The next reason is because we guard against moral decline. We guard against a moral decline. Thomas Jefferson said this. He said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. George Washington said this. He said, religion and morality are the essential pillars of civil society. George Washington said, while we are zealously performing the duties of good citizens and soldiers, we certainly ought not to be inattentive to the higher duties of religion. Our founding fathers understood the importance of our faith. They understood the importance of guarding against this moral decline that even back in the founding was trying to creep in. And if we're not careful, we send people like Tim Waltz. They're going to be putting tampons in every bathroom. What ignorance is that? That is ignorance. Putting tampons in guys' bathrooms? Great day in the morning. That's the direction. Murdering babies, transgender garbage, these drag queens. You look at the moral decline of this nation. And if we send somebody like Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz, it's going to be it's going to be insane when you look at the moral decline of this nation. And we got to guard against that. And one way we guard against that is by electing good, strong Christians in office. We elect good, strong conservatives in office. We need more Christians running. Hey, next year, you're going to have mayor races. You're going to have councilman races, alderman races. You're going to have congressional. You're going to have not congressional, not next year, but you're going to have all of these different races. We need people to run for mayor. We need people to run for council. We need people to run for alderman. We need people, Christians, good people, good Christians to run for office all over Louisiana, all over Mississippi, all over the United States of America. We need good Christians in office. Why? We can guard against moral decline. We can push back against the moral decline. Why did Rome fall? I'll tell you one reason, one of many, because of their moral decline. You look at these countries. You look at Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon, and how come they fell? How did the Medes and Persia fall? I'll tell you how. The decline, the moral decline. And you look at the United States of America and the path that she is on. If we stay on this path, and if we elect somebody like Kamala Harris, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see this nation decline. It's already on a decline, but it's going to be 10 times worse. It's going to be like a fast track to hell. That's why you and I, as Christians, we must get out and vote. I'm going to give you 10 reasons over the next several weeks or the next 15 days. Let me say it like that. The first is because it's our moral responsibility. Our moral responsibility. Number two, it's the preservation of religious liberty. And then number three, I said it was because of we can guard against moral decline. We can guard against moral decline. Those are just three reasons why you and I as Christians are to vote for Donald Trump. I'm going to give you 7 more over the next 14 or 15 days. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching. If you have not already shared this video, if you have not already shared our Facebook page, if you haven't already shared our YouTube channel, I would encourage you to do so. Like I say all the time, and I put this out all the time, your vote counts. Your vote counts. Let's get people to the polls. Everybody that we possibly can, let's get them to the polls because, ladies and gentlemen, your vote counts. Thanks for tuning in to God and Country. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it very, very much. God bless you, and may God bless Donald Trump, and may God continue to bless the great United States of America.